What bold experiments should new authors try today in order to thrive in a hybrid model?
Yes, I sort of fell into both. I when I initially published Forsaken, I had no idea how to query an agent, so
Hmm.
I didn't get one. But I knew I had a good book. I had worked in behind the scenes in publishing for 20 some years, so I knew what it took to sell a good book. I knew I had a 5-star read. So ultimately, I decided to put that out on my own, but I mimicked everything that I saw coming out of the big publishers. I use Penguin Random House as an example. So I hired the best cover designers, the best editors, best format people. I wanted to put out a product that was indistinguishable from the products coming from them. And ultimately, that's what I did. And for a lot of reasons, that book sold really well. And, that was probably just one of many. And that put me on the radar of the traditional publishers. So at that point, I had no trouble getting an agent, no trouble getting a publishing deal. My next couple of books, I did the traditional route with Random House, with HarperCollins, with Putnam. But I gotten a taste of being an indie author. The financial benefits are much better. You
Hmm.
get roughly 70 cents on the dollar versus 10 to 15 cents on the dollar if you're with a traditional publisher. They give you a nice big check at the beginning, which is great, but you have to pay that money back and you're paying it back in these small little increments. So when you look back on something, like I'm fortunate enough now, I've been at it for 11 years. I can look back at an indie published title and the economics of that versus a traditionally published title and the economics of that. Over the long run, I'm better off as an indie author. But
Hmm.
I'm constantly experimenting with that. I did a couple of books that I did the hybrid model, which you kind of touched on. So I published them domestically in English, through my own publishing company. And then I had the typical publishers put me, get the book out around the world in all the different languages. And I'm in about 150 different countries, 24 different
Oh.
languages. So there's a lot of people involved, but I did that model for a little bit. But there's, as an indie author, there's some places you just can't get into. It's near impossible to get into the big box stores. It's hard to get into grocery stores, drugstores, things like that. Ultimately, about a year and a half ago, I worked out a deal with Simon and Schuster, where they allowed me to create my own imprint on Simon and Schuster. So I get to act as an indie author. I can put out whatever books I want when I want. But Simon and Schuster handles my print sales and distribution, which personally, in today's world, I think that's the best position I can be in. That may change a year from now. Publishing moves very quickly, but I'm very happy with it right now.